Just give it a minute to get going. And we got another minute or so. Okay, going to commercial.
Live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. We are live, folks, from the ArchLIGHT Summit 2022. We made it.
That's right.
We did it. We got here, Greg,
We're
Eric.
getting here after.
And this episode of the show, there's a couple today that are brought to you by our friends. We got to give thanks and gratitude to Keystone Technologies, Greg, Eric. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com.
That's right.
KeystoneTech.com.
And we're talking dynamic lighting today, which we'll get into. In Keystone Dynamic Company,
For sure.
and we're going to talk about color tuning, I'm assuming, and all that stuff. And Keystone's got color selectable on just about all their products. So let the customer choose what they want. Get the product and then choose the color you want. They got it.
You got to go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KEYSTONETECH.com. Amy Deluxe.
Hello.
Thank you for being with us here on Get a Grip on Lighting live exciting live from ArchLIGHT 2022. How are things?
Great, wonderful. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, isn't it great? Greg, why don't you start us off and just kick ArchLIGHT into overdrive? Why are we, what are we doing here? Why is it so wonderful to be here in the beautiful Dallas Market Center and, get us going?
Yeah. Well, as you guys know, if you watched yesterday, we had our Nailed convention, and we partnered up with ArchLIGHT, so it's really bringing a new dynamic to the lighting industry for having everybody together, and that's what I like about it is we have the lighting distribution represented, then a lot of the architects and specifiers and things here, and excited to be here. So day one of ArchLIGHT right now. And your last name is really Lux, like Lux?
Yeah, do you need my driver's license?
How did you get that?
It's a very popular question.
How did you do that? you chose
Just
it.
magic.
Magic.
Yeah, the magic of lighting.
You were destined to be in lighting.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So your topic today, what are you going to be talking about?
We're going to be talking about demystifying dynamic lighting, which basically is, I have a theatrical background, so we do this all day long in entertainment, RGB and things like that. But when it comes to architects, engineers, specifiers in the architectural realm, depending on what market you're in, it can be challenging. And so my job is to go and help specifiers demystify the technology, understand it a little bit better, take away some of that intimidation. And I also work with contractors to help them do the wiring correctly and things like that. So my belief is education is always going to help us thrive. And so I help people to understand these technologies so they can make fun art with it.
Greg, demystifying is such an early adopter word, right? Like the early adopters with Amy. Okay, guys, it's not that complicated. Amy's here. She's going to tell you how it works. Don't get overwhelmed, right? That's basically what you're doing, right? You're going out telling everybody to calm down. We can figure this out. Is it working? Are we seeing traction, Amy? Where are we at with this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely trending. Obviously, in places like Vegas and Dubai, we've already seen this happen a lot. And so other markets are getting really excited about it. And sometimes it's just a feature piece like a fountain or a lobby feature, a building facade. And so we have these little moments that we can bring color in. And sometimes that color is RGB and sometimes it's circadian lighting, which is another topic that is growing as we learn more about lighting health. So in either of these cases, you need, more advanced lighting controls.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's kind of where people kind of put the brakes on a little bit. And so we definitely are seeing, across the board that both RGB and circadian lighting have become very popular and are in demand. And so now we just need to go that extra step and help people understand how to do it with success.
To be truly dynamic, what does that mean? Dynamic lighting is a general term, but what do you mean in your opinion?
Yeah, so when we're talking about whether it's RGB or circadian, dynamic lighting is basically saying this is a lighting feature that is controlled automatically. So there's no human intervention. You don't have to maybe you push one button, but then there is some kind of automation that happens that's going to change the color on its own over a period of time.
So you set it and forget it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's what it has to be, because, and we often talk about the controls piece, right? Where people are like tunable. Like we've said many times, like tuning in 2022 is like dimming in 1969. Everybody's going to do it eventually. It's going to be some stupid thing on your wall where you tune your lights. Like that's going to be what happens.
Mhm.
But you know why? Because that freight train is coming so fast, and it's so easy for us as an industry to give this to people. How do we then, how do we give everybody access to it? Like like everybody should have access to tunable lighting.
Yes, absolutely. Because we, excuse me, we've learned, this is the first generation of elders that has been exposed to artificial light for their entire
Yes.
lifespan. And that's why we're starting to see all these side effects in that community.
Yeah.
And so now that we've learned, the range of color temperatures that's healthy, that we've embedded into our biosystems for, since there's been humans,
Yes.
we're really learning how important that is for our health. And so accessibility is a huge concern. And any technology, when it's new, it's a lot more expensive, and it's also confusing.
Sure.
And so as we start to bring those, feature sets into more regular situations, then we see costs come down with technology. We see, the demystifying happening where people feel educated, they feel comfortable. And so that's kind of, again, the road, I always believe, begins with education, like building out your knowledge base and getting really comfortable.
I think the road. I disagree with you with that. I don't think it starts with education. I think it starts with profits. People like you that are in the field, like we're demystifying lighting controls today for you. Okay, buddy.
But profits
Everybody
educate.
relax.
Profits educate.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yes. No, but they're not educating.
Okay.
What they're doing is they are making believers. They're converting people to the new religion, right? Like, that's what everyone gets mad at me when I say commoditization is amazing. We want commoditization. It gives everybody access to the good things at a low price.
Well, and you can also get funding from, it doesn't always have to be profit. There's also nonprofit. For example, in the Bay Area, I just did an audit with the company, and we found that every jurisdiction actually has a fund for public arts projects, and it's kind of a use it or lose it situation.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, we've kind of helped specifiers realize that they can get funding for this creative lighting, whether it's, let's say it's a fountain in the landscaping, so they can actually get funding for that. So there is a money piece for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a big part of it. So, but sometimes that entryway doesn't always have to be like big corporate money. It can come from entities as well. And there's also a lot of programs for schools. Especially over the past couple of years, there's been a few like new funding opportunities, from the federal level that allow people to bring circadian, bring germicidal UV, bring all these types of things into our schools. So I agree with you. There's a money piece, but no one's going to do it if they've got the money, but they don't understand what they're doing.
Well, that's exactly what it is, Greg.
Yep.
I mean, that's what you do every day. What I do as a person who sells lighting is that. But we need an industry transformation. I often talk about the lighting controls boom bust cycle. This time's going to be different, Amy. You know what I mean? But maybe it will. I hope it will. But in the past, with the lighting controls, always like, everyone's going to do controls. Everyone's going to do. No, 1% adoption. Everyone's going to do controls when we connect them to the internet. Everyone's going to do it, right? But then now we have this other thing. We have the circadian. We have the tunability. We have other areas where we can really tap into the beauty and of light as a tool of art, and as a way to cue people to do things that is valuable to them, we need to tap into that. I don't know, Greg. I have people telling me in the United States that it's about not for profit. I like profit. I want to
Oh,
make a
believe me,
ton of
there's
money.
plenty of profit in the U.S. I don't want to misguide you.
Yes. One of the interesting points you brought up is the first generation of elders that have lived under artificial lighting.
Mm.
And you mentioned we've learned. Have we actually learned, or are we still learning? Because I feel like we're not where we need to be yet. I know, and obviously that's why you're demystifying things. But what have we learned?
Yeah, so there's some great organizations like Lighting Research Center, and a lot of groups that are doing the actual science. So I think we have learned. There's plenty more to learn. We've learned in a very like tiny little speck of the industry, and that knowledge needs to kind of spread across, because it's kind of one of those things that does come back to funding. People go, "Oh, circadian's great. Like we really need this for our office workers," and then they look at the budget and, well, we don't need that right now.
Right.
So they've learned, but not to the point where they really understand the long-term implications and how beneficial it really can be. I think, so it's a curve. But I do think there is a lot more learning to do, and a lot more adoption.
Yeah.
I feel like saying when it comes to lighting, we're like fish figuring out we live in water.
Like the koi out here.
Yeah, koi. Yeah,
Yes.
koi. See, with the beautiful koi. Look at them, he's swimming over there.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
doing good.
They're excited. They're dynamic.
Yeah, but it's like we live in light. That's what we live in, and actually, darkness is a type of light.
Absolutely.
And we need it.
I always say that being a human is completely about our perception of light and shadow. Is part of the reason I love lighting so much, because everything we think we understand about being alive in this world comes from how we perceive light and shadow. Something looks completely different at night.
Keep talking about this. Go.
Yeah. So like
I'm
if we're in where we are today in Trade Mart, this is a big, beautiful, there's an atrium, there's all this natural light coming in. We've got all the light booths. We've got little pops of color everywhere. So this is giving us a mood. This is giving us an energy. If we come back here tonight when all the lights are shut off and everybody's gone and it's empty, it's going to be spooky.
It might be spooky, yeah.
Yeah, so just depending on where you are, that's how we
That's
create
so true.
ambiance,
Yeah.
So like, you've ever been driving late at night and you're tired and you start getting seeing weird stuff on the road,
Sure, yeah. Time to
right?
pull
So
over.
yeah, exactly. Take a nap. But it's those kinds of things. I just really believe that our whole entire perception of being human is how we're perceiving light and shadow, and also color, cones and rods. I mean, this is just all back to lighting science, right?
Yeah. What you're talking about there, the essence of humanity is this, of what we are, is encapsulated in light. Like where it's taking place is in the light.
Yeah.
Like the whole drama,
Mm-hmm.
everything that's happening.
Right.
Like it's all in the light,
Yeah.
or the dark,
And in the shadows.
yeah,
It's in both.
it's all there, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, even this is like a manipulation of light. Scotty's working with the light. He's sending the light in a package back to Toronto, and they're streaming the light out on social media that hits people with light.
That's right.
It's all in light.
Yeah.
Everything. Let there be light.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I'm so grateful to be in this industry and in this community, because we have a real appreciation for it, and most common people aren't really thinking about the light. It's just something that we take for granted,
Yes.
and don't realize how much it's affecting us. But we really have an opportunity in the lighting industry to like create that ambiance and to create those moods and make people feel something.
So how did you get to become a prophet? What is your background? The prophet.
Hilarious. My background is actually, so originally I went to school for graphic design,
Okay.
and I moved to Austin, Texas. I'm from Philadelphia originally. And it was kind of after 9/11, and things weren't super great in the economy. And I was just putzing around, making flyers for musicians and, CD covers and things like that. But I wasn't really surviving as a graphic designer. And so, I was doing coffee shop art shows and things like that. And someone turned me on to staging. And so I just kind of did it as a side job, to get like a little extra cash to pay the rent and that kind of thing. But I just accidentally fell in love with it. So I originally started in like props and set painting, somewhere where a visual artist would make the most sense. But whenever I was doing, setting up a stage, I would see the lighting people hanging the rig,
Yeah.
and I just always kept staring over there, like, wow, I really want to know about that.
Mm.
And so finally, I just asked if I could be on a lighting crew one day, and so they let me, and it just it just popped, like it made perfect sense. And I've done kind of like those fun psychological online tests and everything, and I've learned about myself,
Yeah.
and I'm actually even brained. So if I go too far down the creative, I like really crave structure, and if I go too far down the structure, I need to freak out and go back to the creative. So the lighting for me like really rides that line where you get to paint with light, but you also do calcs, and you also do math, and calculate your loads and
It's an
things like
art
that.
and a science.
Exactly. Yeah. So I get to ride that line, and it just was a perfect match.
That's
for
why
me.
there's so many women in lighting. The reason why the lighting industry attracts women so much is because it rides that yin and yang right down the middle, man.
Yeah.
Order and chaos together. It's so beautiful. Like the lighting industry is so amazing that way. Like it's at the same time an art, a hard art, like major art, and at the same time a science, and that those two things are brought together to be one. There's no other industry like that.
Yeah, it's very unique.
And it's critical infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the elements of lighting, you know what I mean? It's like it's the best industry to be in for all reasons. It's what we live in, like we were saying. Tell me a little bit about you doing a presentation at 4 o'clock today.
Yes.
What is it about?
Yeah, so it's called Demystifying Dynamic Lighting, and it basically talks about, how to understand this vertical a little bit better so that you can start bringing it into your projects and feeling comfortable with that. So we go through basic terminology, what type of protocols are included in dynamic lighting, because there's a few different options. And then lighting options, controls options, the distribution of the controls, what your drawing sets should look like when you're getting ready to do an installation, kind of just like from soup to nuts, what you need to know the basics for dynamic lighting to make a project a success.
I like that word, dynamic lighting, Greg.
I do too. Yeah, and I'm interested. We talked about what it means, but are you suggesting and recommending that we should always have dynamic lighting in all spaces?
I mean, for me, I would say yes, outstandingly so, because in the era that we live in today, everything's automated. I mean, our phones there's wayfinding, there's all these things that we're using these digital systems. So why are we going to use old technology in our lighting? If you're using dynamic lighting and digital lighting, you can also tie into IoT and all these other different kinds of systems, and you can just make a great global centralized system.
I think you're making an excuse for it rather than a case, though.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's a case to be made here. And I think we're in the that's what that's what like people like you, like Andrea Wilkerson is like an Amy Deluxe, like on the other end from PNNL. She's like, this is what happens when you use these crazy lighting controls. Like look at how the nurses used it and look at how the teachers use it, right? And it's like that's where we're at right now, and you're saying gain access to this, use it in your projects, give it a try.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Is that what you're saying? Or you like?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to be a proponent of it, but I think that if we look at, especially after the past 3 years, if we look at the mental health of, of our population, we need all the help we can get. So if we want to just dial it back to circadian lighting in itself, we understand that this is something that is going to help us with our health. This is going to help our physical health. It's going to help our mental health.
But you don't know how to do that yet.
What do you mean I don't know how to do that yet?
Like we've been looking for the prescription,
yes,
right, of how to do that.
Yeah,
we want to figure out how to do that.
Circadian lighting.
Yes,
we know how to do it.
Well, the key is, and it goes back to something we talk about a lot. Is it prescribed or what's the other? Or
is it human centric or is it circadian?
Okay, well, so there's a lot of different words to say the same thing, and so this gets into marketing and proprietary terms a little bit, right? So it depends on who you're talking to, but if we're talking about human-centric, circadian lighting, tunable lighting, these are all synonyms. Basically, what we're talking about is
the best synonyms are opposites, like jealousy and envy are opposites. They're synonyms. Like if you look up synonym to envy, it's jealousy, but actually jealousy and envy.
Isn't that an antonym?
They're antonyms, but they're not antonyms. They're opposite synonyms.
Which
is
a
different designation.
An antonym.
It's an opposite synonym. It's not an antonym. An antonym means like not in the same category, completely different.
I thought it meant opposite.
No, there's opposite synonyms too.
Oh.
There's synonyms and then there's opposite synonyms, and then there's antonyms.
Okay.
Like jealousy and envy is one, a good example. Another one would be like money and currency.
Mm.
Those are opposite synonyms. They're completely different, but like there's all kinds of those things. But human centric and circadian. So circadian, what we're talking about is what's the prescription of the lighting that you need. You need a lighting prescription. You're not in control, sucker. We got you.
Right. So, I mean, all we're trying to do is we're trying to basically mimic natural light. So,
But
natural
that's
light,
not
the
possible.
sun,
We can't
yes,
do
yes.
that.
The sun
I doubt you, Amy.
starts at a warm temperature at sunrise,
Yes.
What
And-
temp?
like 2200 or 18 to 2200,
Okay,
depending
thank
on what time of day.
You're on the
Thank you.
Get a Grip on Lighting podcast right now.
So I'm going to get it down to lighting here. Okay, so 1800 Kelvin.
Depends
I'm
on
gonna start my day.
it depends on what your horizon looks like.
Okay.
But then, as you know, as we are increasing to noon, we're going to bring in more of that blue wavelength, so it's going to get cooler in midday, and that's what makes us feel active. We actually want blue wavelength. We just don't want it at certain times of the day. Middle of the day, great. You know, we want to be feeling active and alive. Then the sun starts to set. We go back to that warm temperature. Maybe we'll bring in some candlelight or some firelight, so it's warm again.
Okay.
So all you need to do when you're doing a circadian system is start at like 2000 Kelvin, bring it up to like, I mean, some of these lighting systems go up to like 10K, and that's kind of ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
You know, it's unnecessary. But you know, you can bring it up to like 4 to 6K for your midday, and then you go back to your 18
What does this
2K.
do for us? Like, does it make us like what you're saying is that yes, this is how the color of the sun looks, and so we should mimic that, and like I'm good with that. But the power, the thing is like, what does it actually deliver other than beauty? And is beauty enough?
Well, it's your biorhythm. Your biorhythm's actually responding to these temperatures.
Is it though?
Yeah. So your melatonin
Yeah.
and all of your chemical compounds are basically responding to these temperatures of light. And if you go outside, it's not a perfect science yet inside. One of the things that we get from being outside is we actually can read this through our skin cells. You know, when we're out in real natural light.
That's what Deborah Burnett talks about all the time. It's like she talks about like sunlight is information.
Yeah, so
actually.
your cortisol and your melatonin are the main things.
Like it's
that are gonna
telling you
spike.
to do things actually.
Right. Right. It's telling you, like, melatonin's going to tell you to go to sleep,
Yeah.
and cortisol's going to tell you to wake up. And so those are the main hormones that are responding to the temperature of light.
I know this is real basic and people don't like, but I always ask people like you this. So I'm going to start my day at 1800 Kelvin. How many times have I asked this? And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to go to like 3K. And then at 9, it's going to be 4. I want to see the chart per hour of what Kelvin it should be.
Okay.
You know,
I
like
can't show you a chart on radio, but I can certainly get back to you.
So no, like what he's saying is like typical fall day Minnesota light schedule.
Yeah.
Right? For you.
Yes.
Like I want to know. And like the reality is like humans are so different. We're from like we're a species, but there's uniqueness about us. Like people that come from different areas of the world. I can't wait to find out like how light affects different humans depending on where they were from and where their ancestors were from.
Well, and you know, this
I
is
think it's
why
been
they're
awesome.
they have these light mirrors of warm temperatures that they give to Norwegians and Scandinavians
Yeah.
and things, because they're not getting enough of that they're not getting enough light in general. You know, same with Alaska, like the light, it gets dark half
Yeah.
the year. So we know that we need light.
Why are humans like think they're above everything? Like humans are so dumb. Like you talk to a human and
It's
like,
hard to believe we're ruling the planet. I agree.
no, but like it's like you can't, like Alaska's not a place to live. Like you gotta tell people, like, you know, it's dark half the year. You know how like you're really upset in January when you live in Alaska and you don't know why. I know
Because
why.
you're cold.
No, I know
It's
why, because
dark.
it's dark all the time and you can't see the light, literally. And you know what's funny with science? When you're talking about research and science, at the end of it all, you end up in spirituality somehow. Always you end up there. You know, and light is about, even when you're talking about UVC or germicidal, it's killing the nasty demons. Like in our ancestors would have called COVID-19 a demon. It would have been
Sure.
a spirit,
Right.
an evil spirit or whatever.
Mhm.
Now we know it's not an evil spirit. It's
It's a
actually
germ.
it's still an evil spirit. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like it's that nothing's changed. It's like floats around in the air and you can't see it. Then it gets in you and you're sick. It's like a demon.
It's very much like a demon.
You know
I've
what I
never
mean?
thought of it that way.
You
Yeah.
know, it's the same thing. Like our ancestors called them spirits and demons. We call them germs and virus, whatever. But the light can clean them, and we can use light as a tool to make our lives better and healthier. And that people have to stop taking it for granted, Amy Deluxe.
Well, it starts with education. They got to learn about it.
No, it starts with profits and making believers, then education.
I'm going to have to disagree, but I think if there's a yin yang there, maybe it's a little of both.
Maybe it's the same thing. We're just speaking at the same thing.
It's a synonym. It's an antonym.
We've gone for half an hour here on the live stream. Scotty, we got to go. We just quickly, let's say thanks to Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. Amy, presentations out for today. What do you have for the Get a Grip on people that couldn't make it to ArcLight? Give them a little bit of your presentation, a little bit of the gold. Why they should come to ArcLight next year and see and have these talks. Go ahead.
Yeah, ArcLight is an incredible facility for everyone. There's all kinds of CEUs. There's great booths. There's great product here, and it's really fun to be on the ground floor of ArcLight. This is the second year I've been here, both years, and it's really amazing to watch it grow and the numbers increasing. As far as the dynamic session goes, this is just something that it's worth learning. It's going to come across your table, and with dynamic lighting, if you know the rules, it's really easy to implement, and if you don't know the rules, it's really easy to break. So if you want to do it and your clients are asking you for it, get educated, learn the basics, and then go out and do something really fun and cool.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Love it. Last night a DJ saved our lives, folks, but right now we're just going to KeystoneTech.com. We're here at ArcLight Dallas Market Center. What a wonderful place this is, Greg. We're by the koi pond here. If you're at the event and you're watching this stream, come by and say hello. But for right now, go to KEYSTONETECH.com. Signing off from the Market Center. See you in half an hour.